Good morning, Mrs. Barnett Davidson. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm truly happy that we're twinning today. We both have on yellow. As I
Yes.
said before, my yellow is in celebration of you and your colleagues at the National Gallery of Jamaica. Congratulations on celebrating your 50th anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
We're looking forward to a really exciting year. We posted our schedule in February, and we have two major flagship shows. There's going to be the 50th anniversary show, as in the 50th anniversary of the gallery. So that's scheduled for June 30. And then we have our biennial show, our Kingston Biennial, and that's scheduled for December. So Jamaica's most celebrated artist, and he is Malika Capo Reynolds, OD, and the OD stands for Order of Distinction. That is one of that's a national award. It's our sixth highest national award, and it's one that is available for citizens of the country, specifically in the area, in whatever their area of expertise in. It's in honor of services that they have rendered in that area. So for Capo, he was honored not just for his artistry, but he was also honored. He got that award, I think, in 1977. He got that.
awesome.
He was awarded that not just for his work as an artist, but he was also awarded as a cultural ambassador. Because as you will see a little later on, he was doing a lot of different things. He represents a lot of different aspects of Jamaican culture, and it made him almost a quintessential um, Jamaican in terms of a lot of our endemic cultural practices. And he was born in 1911. He died in 1989,
Yes.
and he began his vocation as a revivalist preacher very fairly young. In fact, it was actually, I think it was actually a little younger than his 20s, because in his autobiographical notes, he talks about getting spiritual visions from as early as 12 years old, and again at 16 years old. And it was shortly after that second vision that he started to basically be a traveling preacher, so to speak. He would move from community to community um, within rural areas. He was originally from a village called Binlas, which is in
Yes.
St. Catherine. St. Catherine is one of the
Yes.
parishes along Jamaica's southern coast, and
Yes.
it's one of the more central parishes on the coast. But eventually he moved from St. Catherine and relocated to Kingston during the 1930s. And initially he settled in Trenchtown. And Trenchtown is very famous for a lot of people
Yes.
who we know celebrate as cultural ambassadors, the biggest one being Bob Marley. He settled in Trenchtown after he moved with his mother from 9 Miles in St. Anne. And a number of the persons who formed the Wailers were from there. Other musicians like Ernie Ranglin, even Junior Tucker, a Jamaican singer. I mean, there's several entertainers and public figures that called Trenchtown their home, especially in the years before Jamaica gained independence in the 1960s. So Capo entered into all of that, and he established his own church in Trenchtown, the St. Michael Revival Apostolic Tabernacle, where
Yes.
he was appointed the bishop, and he maintained that position as bishop right up until the time of his passing. Eventually, he would become recognized as a leader of the revivalist movement nationwide. So during his lifetime, at least definitely within the last 30 or 20 years, he was the most important revivalist in Jamaica. And by the 1980s, he had developed such a reputation that he not only was famous locally, he was famous internationally as well. His art practice actually started around between late 1940s into the 1950s, at a time, and this is taken from his autobiographical notes, where he talked about living a life of destitution. Because sometimes as a traveling preacher, you don't really have money. You live off the alms of other people. You live off of what persons will give you, whether that's money or food or sometimes even shelter.
Mhm.
But he had gotten to a point of real desperation, and he said that he had fasted and prayed for a way to get out of it. And
Mhm.
he was
Mhm.
inspired during that period to start carving. He carved in stone and carved in wood, and realized that he actually had a talent for carving. And so he saw that
Awesome.
as a God-given gift. He started to kind of gain a reputation as being a self-taught artist and not just a revivalist preacher. And then KAPO himself was known to have a very charismatic personality. He was very flamboyant, he was very articulate, and was very self-assured and confident. And really gained a lot of fame, so much so that in 1981, when Prince Charles and Lady and Princess Diana were getting married, it was one of his works that was chosen to be a wedding gift to them on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica. Every work in here is a work that was done by him. As I may have mentioned before, KAPO was both a painter and a sculptor, and he was self-taught. He did not go to a formal institution to learn how to draw and paint. He didn't apprentice anybody, at least that's what he says, or that's what he said. He didn't apprentice another artist or anything. He was divinely inspired to start working in materials. He initially started out with wood and stone, and then he expanded that into doing painted works too, of the genders in the binary sense, male and female. There doesn't seem to be a clear hierarchy where one is higher than the other, but rather a lot of his works demonstrate where both support each other, and they support each other in roles that that really kind of show up the level of agency or levels of agency that each has. But I want to start out with this very large sculpture by him. I mean, I am roughly 5'5", and the sculpture is just a little bit taller than me. Wow. So this is Royal Rooster, and Royal Rooster was a work that was a part of the Larry Worth acquisition, and it's actually a self-portrait. This, according to, because KAPO gave some notes with or let me rephrase that. Researchers were able to get some primary data from him in terms of his interpretations of his own works. And for this one, he actually identified it as a self-portrait. Yeah, well, I mean, KAPO was based on I mean, I didn't know the man personally, so a lot of my information about him really comes from research, which would include speaking to people who knew him. And the impression that is there is that he was a very proud Jamaican. KAPO didn't live anywhere else, despite how many places in the world he traveled to. He situated himself in Jamaica, and he stayed in Kingston. I mean, the audience may not know a whole lot about capital city Kingston, but Trenchtown, for example, is considered one of our lower income communities, and even sometimes is seen as a volatile community. And it was an identity according to his expression of it. You know, he was very, he authored that, and he made people think about Jamaica in ways that probably they weren't really thinking of it before. I mean, around that time there was a debate about, you know, should Jamaica identify itself as a kind of a modern Western post-colonial society, or should Jamaican culture be identified as a folk one? And KAPO's presence in the various roles that he played, and the various ways that he represented the country, actually demonstrated a marriage between the two, but a marriage that did not dull his love for Jamaica and his desire to want to see Jamaica grow and develop on its own terms. He did exhibitions at there's a studio, I think it's in Harlem, called Studio Uptown, that he did exhibitions
This is
at.
Harlem, New York, or?
Yeah, man, Harlem,
Yes.
New York. He also showed at, I think, the Guggenheim as well. You know, so he had an art market that was largely in North America. Roberta Flack, American singer, was also one of his patrons too.
Wow.
In fact, I think she had looked after his daughter for a little while. When his daughter migrated, she lived with Roberta Flack. So he was in North America a lot. I think he also went to the UK as well. But
Yes, so
definitely a lot of the research that
basically,
I've come across see him going to different places in the US.
as we commemorate the UN's World Day for Cultural Diversity, would you kindly share a greeting from KAPO in his local language, tailored specifically for my colleagues, the students of Tor Vergata University of Rome?
But I can but Capo spoke primarily in Patois.
Yes.
So I can offer a greeting in Patois, if
Great.
that's okay with you.
We're ready for it. Go give it to us.
Yeah. All right. Well, first and foremost, big up yourself, big up everybody, big up the whole mass at Tor University. It was definitely a privilege being able to share this with you. I hope everybody loves it. One love and enough blessings for today and the future.